We are watching extraordinary events in Washington, D.C., indeed around the world, but in our nation's capital, the deep state, so-called, is rising, and it is at war with President Trump and his entire administration, and indeed, perhaps with the American people themselves. Senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research, joining me now, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Tony, great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. Good to be on with you, sir.
And good to see you. Talking with Chris Farrell from Judicial Watch,
right?
The issues that are coming up here, the leaks from what I call leftovers. Some people call them holdovers, but these are leftovers.
Ticks.
From the Obama administration,
right?
Leaking, conspiring against this administration, trying to, it seems to me, openly to subvert the administration. And with the national left-wing media, they're not even asking the question. Who are the leakers? What is going on? I want to get first your reaction of what we're watching here holistically, that the president has to deal with and which the American people need to be fully aware of.
Yeah. Well, just to first off, Chris Farrell is completely right. He's brilliant. His assessment is completely correct. We have huge problems, and we have a deep state. Lou, another example of the deep state is Lois Lerner. Lois Lerner being the IRS official who basically was, in the beginning, a Clinton appointee who burrowed herself way into the program. So there's literally thousands like that. This is unheard of, it's unacceptable, and Lou, we're talking about individuals who have not only violated their oath of office, they now have committed felonies which should land them in jail for a minimum per act of 10 years. So this is
leaking classified information.
For leaking classified information. Right. And by the way, what's worse, and Chris would back me up on this, sources and methods. We shouldn't be talking, Lou, about some of the methodologies here. You and I have talked before about data mining and technology, sure. and frankly, what's ironic here is as much as when we talked about the targeting of terrorists and being prevented from looking at them because they were U.S. citizens, this is the opposite. This is where you're getting people, basically anybody who has a win now can do this incidental collection. Lou, that is code for accidentally on purpose, right. And I think that's what we have to understand has to be dealt with severely and immediately.
Yeah, what was the language used by Chairman Nunez? Coincidental surveillance,
yeah.
Which is secondary, peripheral, but not necessarily unhelpful, I guess is the way you would style that.
Right, and I've got some beach property in Canada I want to sell you, a tropical beach in Canada. This is ridiculous. So I think we have to understand here, Lou, that both sides should be calling for a complete investigation, and they're not. The Democrats trying to not do it.
It seems to me that based on what we now have learned, principally from Chairman Nunez, his committee, President Obama definitely should be investigated. His administration and those who are in places of high responsibility who've been leaking. I mean, this is now extraordinarily dangerous and awfully ugly.
Well, look, I've called out John Brennan on the network. I think John Brennan was part of it. I think Jim Clapper was part of it. And think about this. Just think logically about this. Who at the New York Times, Lou, would take an anonymous source unless it's an anonymous source of that stature? And by the way, you didn't see John Brennan and Jim Clapper screaming for investigations, did you? That's a clue. So I think we have to understand that these men who were the former administration officials probably reported to Obama, and let me tell you this, Lou, I've gone to the White House to have to brief this type of operation before. So it's inconceivable that the White House was not fully briefed on everything that was going on regarding this disclosure and sharing.